Welcome, Nate Brown, to IT After Hours.
Hello.
Hello, Nate. I am, first of all, wanting to thank you very, very much for taking the time to talk with us today.
Very much my pleasure. I've been very excited to be here. Hello, Maddie. Hello, Ben.
Hello, hello. And as Nate mentioned, there is a third member of the pod, a very special guest. Maddie, reveal your voice.
Hello. Excited to be back.
So if you listen to episode 3 of the pod, you know Maddie very well, and you know that she knows me very well. We had so much fun that we decided to just make her a fixture on the pod by popular demand. So I'm really excited for that, and particularly for this chat. So Nate, we're going to get to know a lot about him. Nate is not in IT per se. His lane seems to be customer success. My lane has always been kind of IT services, and Maddie's lane is customer success. My lane's always been IT services. And Nate, would you say your realm is customer experience? Is that a better way to put it?
I would. And I would even say that our lanes combine and in the ways that we could serve the customer together. And that would ultimately be customer experience. Yes.
100%. And the pod hasn't dropped yet that we recorded with Maddie, but I was just editing it today. And one of the coolest things that came out of that chat was me learning from Maddie about customer success and how similar that is to what we do in IT, to the extent that IT departments, I think it's such an outdated name, I almost want to call them employee success departments.
Ooh, cool.
I've never heard that that's I just pulled it out of my butt, to be honest.
It strikes me.
But I agree. We have
all the best ideas.
Yeah. So first of all, there are people that know you and don't know you. I looked on LinkedIn and we have approximately 9,000 of the same connections. So there will be a lot of overlap. Yeah. And really how I came across you was, I was like, who's this person with a very clear point of view, a very cool personal brand, who is speaking at all of the IT conferences, yet is in customer experience? And I've been fascinated to have this talk, really just to get to know you. So tell me real quick, like, why are you here? Why do you end up at all these IT things? Why are you so ubiquitous on my side of the pond? And just tell us about yourself.
Well, I appreciate that, Ben. And I really got started. It was, I guess, about 2009 or 10 that I got an HDI certification. Are you familiar at all with HDI?
For sure. Yeah. I that's actually that was my kind of gateway drug into IT metrics. So for sure.
Nice. So, I mean, at that time, it was the Help Desk Institute, which we're not allowed to call that anymore. It's
right.
Just HDI. And it's just a great association and a wonderful community. Roy Atkinson and so many wonderful folks that welcomed me in with open arms as I learned from HDI, and then got so excited about learning from them. I was like, wow, I want to start to contribute. And so started writing some blogs and then started speaking first at an ICMI conference, which is their sister company, the International Customer Management Institute. Right. And then the year after, what was given my first opportunity to speak at an HDI event, and just really became so excited about this idea of getting to learn things from the community, learn things about my own situation inside of a great company I was working for at the time, UL, and then being able to put my own spin on that of here's what we tried, here's what was great about that, here's what didn't work about that, and being vulnerable with some of those failures, as well as being very generous with those successes, and just putting those back out to the community. Hey, thank you, community. I learned this thing from you. We tried it out. We learned a few more things about it. Now here it is back. The same piece of information you taught me now with some new insights, some new context that you can see. And so that little cycle right there, I was like, I want to be a part of this a lot more. And so really started just speaking and writing and being a part of these things, and was able to get on HDI's top thought leader list a few years ago. So I was honored for that. And so it was given some opportunities inside of the IT space to advocate for great customer practices. So Maddie, I feel like we're probably of the same heart with a lot of this.
I was going to ask, maybe for our listeners who don't know the difference between customer success and customer experience, why is there, why do you focus just on the experience versus what I do, which is, kind of dealing with the customers' playbooks and journeys? It would just be great to sort of hear your take.
Sure. I mean, I feel like probably the most ingrained definition for me for customer success is maximizing customer value. So it's not going to be like this for every organization, but most of the time when we talk about customer success, there's going to be a sales and renewal and retention aspect of that.
Right.
It's going to be very present. Let's maximize our partnership with this company so that we can expand our relationship in the form of share of wallet, customer lifetime value, making sure that they love us, that they're saying good things about us, which then fuels our acquisition engine. The way we earn new customers is by doing an exceptional job with our existing customers, to paraphrase a Gene Bliss-ism from Chief Customer Officer 2.0. So I mean, that to me is customer success, whereas CX is going to be a little more operational. It's going to be the management of that holistic journey from the moment that the potential customer learns that we exist and identifies us as a potential solution to their problem, to then the setting of expectations, the courtship that follows to, do you want to be in a relationship with us? And then if yes, here's what that relationship is going to look like, and maximizing that relationship to the point where they're going to be loyal, that they're going to exceed the expectations that have been formed inside of that relationship, and that their perceptions, which is the key word of CX, that their perceptions that they have of the brand are going to be as positive as possible so that we can do great things together.
Something that strikes me about you, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not the kind of thing that you would correct anyway. So it's really not really a fair thing to even say, correct me if I'm wrong. What strikes me about you is not only are you enthusiastic about customer experience, customer success, you're able to articulate that very well, which I really love. You also seem sincere about that, and your passion kind of comes through in your voice. And obviously, you're not going to tell us if that's completely fake or whatever. I don't get the sense that it is. Tell me about that. And is this more of a labor of love than just a day job? I get that sense. I could be wrong, but you tell me. Talk to me about your relationship with customer experience in general.
I mean, I've come to CX through the realm of customer support, which was very much at that time in the mode of break, fix.
Right.
Somebody screwed up. There's a problem. Hey, customer support, come on over here and fix it. And it was the same problem again and again and again. And finally one day, and I was still happy in my job, I was leading a complex team of customer service professionals, which we also had the internal bent as well, which made us IT. It was a hybrid team.
Oh, really? That's actually really cool. Wow.
Yeah,
Well, hopefully we can talk about that later.
Internal and external stakeholders, which was awesome. And so that really made me come alive, because we got to service our own employees, which you get a lot of pride from that. And you get to experiment with that and enhance your capability to service your external stakeholders when those things are together. So we should unpack that a little bit. But I did also feel stuck, where I was like, why am I solving the same problems again and again? There has to be a more intelligent way to think about our relationship to our customers. And the word I was looking for at that time was customer experience. Let's design something better.
Totally.
Let's think in terms of a holistic customer journey in which we can design something intelligent up here. We can set correct expectations up here. We can speak in a unified brand voice and work together to deliver an experience and develop a relationship, instead of just being this department over here that is set aside to only fix things when something is broken.
Were you able to kind of be the change you wanted to see at UL and really kind of impact those changes and see your vision at that company, or were you never able to make that happen?
No, I got to make some things happen.
Oh, that's
and
great.
it definitely wasn't me. I mean, we had a great team of people at UL. And so we started what we called the customer commitment, which was an organic group of committed stakeholders who were, like me, starting to become attuned and aware to this remarkable power of customer experience, this holistic way of thinking. Because CX isn't something you do. It's a way you think about your business and the way that you service your customers. It's just a different way of thinking, and a better way of thinking about the relationships that you're building and the experiences that you're designing. So we had this small core of people who just grew up a grassroots movement right inside of the the organization, and we had enough success with that organic movement that they invited us to come and speak at a global UL meeting with 15,000 people out of Chicago. And that was kind of like a landmark moment of,
yeah, that's a big deal.
Made a difference. We've made a difference inside of this company. We have changed the way that people are thinking about their customers. And there was a lot of excitement that was generated around that. Did I get to accomplish everything that I personally wanted to do through that mini realization, that revolution that was occurring around CX? Not quite, but it was still thrilling. And I learned so much through that journey.
So you worked there for quite some time, if I'm not mistaken, right? And
I did.
and you also in a lot of different roles. Have you done other corporate, outside of that experience, have you done other corporate gigs? Are you pretty familiar with the status quo, we'll say?
Not really. I sold postage meters on the streets of Jacksonville, Florida for a time, and was very bad at that. And I had a stint inside of a very strange software company that I'll not talk about.
Okay.
But then I jumped into Peer Safety, which was later acquired by UL, and had just a wonderful 12-year run inside of that and affiliated organizations that I'm very grateful for.
And I think I imagine now it's dawned on you, because I think when you go through that, and I've been through a similar situation where it's lightning in a bottle. You get the right people together and you do something remarkable. Were you like me in the sense that you didn't realize how remarkable what you were doing was until afterwards? Or did you get a sense that, oh, this is really fucking cool, like we're onto something? Or did you just think this is like, of course we would do, this? Did it seem natural, or did it seem like you were really onto something special?
There was many wins where it was like, we are making a difference inside of this organization. It was oftentimes small things,
right?
Where somebody would come back and be like, hey, I read that comic book themed newsletter you put out where it had that customer journey embedded inside of it. And I realized that I could do this thing differently for my customer. And for me, that's like, oh my gosh, like somebody's mentality and or behavior changed a little bit in this moment.
Yes.
And that is the work of CX. It's not me. It's not our little micro group. It's us extending this out to everyone else inside of the organization, like a gift that they can receive and also give on to the customer and enhance that gift with their own special personalization. And so there were moments where that was starting to happen. Did it quite take hold on everybody? Did it totally change the way that we did business inside of the organization? No, not quite. But there was enough success with it to where I was like, I'm addicted to this. I see the power of this. And I want to be able to do more of it, which is really what drove me towards Officium.
Yeah. Yeah. What happened after that? So you went through, like, what was it? Did you say 12 or 14-year run?
12 years.
12-year run, which is, eternity by today's standards.
Indeed.
Of that. You obviously got motivated by something. It was time for a change, even though you had big wins. Tell me, like, from the moment that you were sensing you wanted to do something different, what was your inspiration and what gave you the, I guess, confidence to take a relatively, in my opinion, big swing?
That's what a great question. There's so much to say here and some things that I can't, but I did feel stuck. I personally felt stuck in my own context inside of the former organization. And was I? Probably not. In a lot of ways, I think I had actually bound myself in my own little prison of some misconceptions. In fact, I remember I had a great mentor, Debbie Hummel, who I was talking to at one point, and I was so frustrated this one day where she came to visit our Nashville office, and I was talking to her, and I was like, I just every day I'm fighting this battle, and I'm girding myself for war every day, and I'm going, and I feel like I'm fighting my peers, and she's just like, whoa,
yeah,
that's your team out there. Like, those are your people. I mean, you guys have the same colors on. If you're girding yourself for war, it should be together against the competition. And I was like, I can't even think about that right now. I'm so far removed from that. And that was a huge wake up call for me, where I was like, I have started to view my peers as my foes.
Right. And I wonder why is that? And was that because your mission was to advocate for either the end users or customers? Was it that kind of war mentality, you don't strike me as someone that just you strike me as someone that's great to work with if everyone's on the same page. Was it just creative differences with the vision? Like, I mean, obviously, or was it just fucking time to go?
I'm okay to work with. I'm definitely not great to work with, especially not at that time. I have matured in these past couple of years, and a lot of that is due to Jonathan and Officium just challenging me in different ways. But in that season, my EX, my emotional maturity, was a roller coaster. And I would just become so negative so quickly and so hung up on a cultural sticking point, as an example, where we can't serve our customers the way we should be able to, and just whoomp, and I would take people with me, which was the most dangerous part about it.
Yeah.
Because when I was high, like when I was up here, I could collect people, I could motivate people, I could inspire them. I'm very high on the disc profile as an I, and like I love being up there. But for some reason in that season, it took almost nothing to send me back down. And that was too much for the people around me. They're like, we don't know if you're on or off today. What's going on today? And literally somebody called me out on that in a meeting in front of like a lot of executives. and she called me on the mat and was like, we don't know who you are today. Like, what's the deal? Are you happy? Or are you pissed? And like, and of course I was just devastated. What was there some truth to what she said? Yeah. Could that have maybe been said in a different way? Yeah, probably. But it was definitely a wake-up call for me in some ways. And also a bit of a wake-up call of, sadly, I need to go. Like I have become a little bit toxic here.
Yeah.
I am not being the person that I want to be inside of this organization. I did try to change my context and change my mentality some, but I still, as I said before, I felt stuck. Some of that was stuck because of me and my own box, my own mental box. Other things I was stuck because of the actual context that was there just inside of the organization at that time. But either way, it was time to go. And that's what drew me into a very exciting and dynamic startup where.
Okay. So tell me about Officium. Like, let's shift gears, even though I could talk to you about that forever. And I really appreciate your self-awareness. And I think that's why you come across as a great person to work with, probably because you've learned a lot. And, Maddie's been friends with me for a long time, but just when you were describing where you were at the end of your stint there at UL, I could hear my former employees that were forced to listen to this podcast, to get the numbers up. And I could just hear them just nodding their head and be like, yep, sounds like Brennan. And it was really, it gets to a point where it is time to go. And, one thing I just want to say to anyone who's listening, I'm very big into challenging assumptions and challenging conventional wisdom. And one of these is, particularly in IT where I work, a lot of times, folks will be like, whoa, you only stayed at Twitter for 2 days or 2 days. It felt like a lot longer than that, but 2.5 years, or you only stayed here for 3 years or 4 years. When you're doing transformation, especially if you have like this big pool of talent where you're doing big things, and everyone's growing faster than the normal career path, I think the diaspora has to happen. So I think it's, and I've seen it a million times. I don't know. Are you a skateboarder by any chance, or?
No, I'm an electric scooterer.
Oh my God. Yeah. There's this documentary called Dogtown and Z-Boys about this. Are you familiar with them?
I've seen the cover of it or something.
Yeah. So there's a movie and a documentary. You want to do the documentary.
Okay.
So there's Lords of Dogtown. It's not that. It's Dogtown and Z-Boys.
Got it.
Directed by Stacey Peralta. But it was just, to me, really an example of the kind of story that I think you were talking about with this awesome team you put together, and that I've been through too, where every once in a while, the right group of people is together at the right time, and they do really great things. But after that, there is a diaspora where you have to go off and do everything, because when you experience something like that and you're operating at a high level, you've got all these Ferraris. Yes, you want to be humble at the beginning and everyone's doing their part, but you get so much smarter. And to your point, you mature so much through that process. When you're on the other side, everyone's kind of leveled up about 3 titles, and you don't always have the headcount to fill that.
Wow,
So I think it's great that you left, but tell me what happened. I'll shut up now. Officium, where did you meet this guy? Like, tell me everything.
Well, I love what you just described. And that actually just made me realize something that happened inside of CX Accelerator.
Oh yeah, what?
Where we had that phenomenal team that for a season,
Right.
and then we all just it just kind of broke forth and gave birth to something else and something different. And I could never quite understand it, but what you just described makes a lot of sense to me. But going back to the one question around Officium. So yeah, I mean, I was looking for an opportunity where I could just leverage my own creative energies in a very different way.
Right.
Feeling stuck, feeling a little bit downtrodden in a way. I was like, I want to let my wings unfurl and fly as high as I possibly can.
How many months or weeks or days was that from when you got your ass handed to you by your coworker in a meeting?
It was about 4 months, 5 months.
That sounds about right. Okay.
I was definitely in the mode of it's time for me to do something. But yeah, so I was like, where could I fly the highest and give myself the most potential to serve customers really well and do some unique things. And what Jonathan Schroer described of Officium, I mean, it was just a magical fit. And he's looking for an evangelist. He's looking for somebody that could help to create incredible customer experiences and do it with excitement and do it with energy. And that's exactly what the company has been. How often does that happen?
Rarely.
Where an expectation
Hopefully
is set
all the
like
time.
that.
Yeah, we'll ask Maddie. Maddie, you're 2 months into your stint at Q-Stack. Would you like to pass on that question, or would you like to say that Q-Stack has absolutely been that for you?
We'll save this for a podcast.
We'll pass it for the next pod.
Yeah.
It's been so much. I've learned more in this past year and a half than I think I learned in the 4 or 5 years prior to that, just because it's been such a rich environment of challenge. It's like we've got to find a way to excel, not just succeed, not just make it, but like we got to crush it for this customer. And here's a new challenge that's being generated for us. Like they're asking us as the industry experts, how can we do X thing? It's like, okay, this is it. Like, let's put our minds together. Let's figure this out. Let's do something that nobody's done before and put our own spin on it. Our own best practice. We have some guide rails that we've set up for ourselves. So this is our magic. We've got the service stack that Jonathan's created, which has a lot of brilliance baked into it. But it's not bounding us either.
Right.
It's not preventing us from shattering the mold. To do something very creative and different. We've got the CX Lab in San Francisco where we just get to come and hang and talk and incubate on ideas around how can we build something phenomenal for the customers of this organization or our own customers and just really, really make some magic happen.
And so what is the ideal customer for Officium Labs? So if I'm a business, like I own a business, we sell enterprise software to IT departments.
Yeah.
I reach out to you for consulting on how to create a badass experience, or what's the offering?
Mm-hmm. So we've got our connect capability, which if you need staff augmentation, like if you need to outsource a component of your customer service capabilities, because you're a small organization, you're not sure exactly how to support some of the products that you've created, or if you need burst capacity, where you have like a ton of support happening in a certain window of time and you can't staff up to that, we augment that for you. So that's one component. And then, we've got Transform, which is all the consulting capabilities. That let's map out where you are today. Let's measure that. Let's work on your voice of customer engine and figure out where you truly stand, not just on your assumptions, but on the actual voice of your customers, your stakeholders. And then let's help you to evolve from here. And we've had a lot of success doing that in terms of finding the correlation between the customer levers that exist, whether we measure that in the form of customer effort score, customer satisfaction, whatever that is. How can we improve that experience inside of this touch point so that ultimately we have opportunity to grow revenue from this set of customers, to grow the bottom line of the organization and fuel the work of CX in a win-win-win capacity. The customers win, the organization wins because they're doing more for more people in a better format and with lower effort involved in the experience. And then ultimately Officium wins as we learn and grow as part of that and get to service another great client.
You mentioned that you were able and had the privilege to work on a team that did not just external customer experience, but internal customer experience.
Yeah.
With Officium Labs, have you been able to revisit that and actually do any work for people for the kind of internal stakeholders as well? Or are you pretty much, focused right now on the lane of external customer experience?
Yeah, what a great question. And I don't get to do it a ton, but definitely, I'll give you this example. The first thing that I did walking into one of our most amazing and largest customers, a Fortune 10 organization, a big gaming client, is I set up an employee voice capability.
Love that. Yeah.
Is like a pulse survey system where we were able to really understand what does the employee experience look like today. Because if the employees aren't free to serve, if they're not in a place where they're able to offer great service for one reason or another, they're confined by policies and procedures or just whatever reality they're experiencing at that time. If they are not able to give that gift to the customer, that is the thing that needs to be identified first. And so what it actually is morphed into in my work for that customer is training. It's equipping.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Helping those external or those internal stakeholders to know more, to be excited about their career progression, and to be able to just think about and learn new ways that they can ultimately service those players and be excited to do that. I mean, so that's what my work is for that client. Another client, maybe they're really mature in that area. Maybe that's not the starting point for them. And they've identified some really specific areas where it's like, we know this friction point exists in the customer life cycle. We need help to optimize this area. Then I'm going to be micro-focused on that.
Nice. Would you like to mention customers? Would you like to mention any customers by name that do it wrong, that are the worst? I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
I don't think so.
Never fair. Just getting into that good stuff. I would just love to know, like, how do leaders take that type of feedback when you tell them, you aren't empowering your employees, what's that look like?
Oh, goodness. So I've had it happen one time. So generally I find that executives are first really fascinated by the data and a little bit taken back and maybe even a little defensive about it of no. Like we're great communicators. Like I said that at an all hands on deck meeting one time. And then like, it just, the data is so clear and there's no place to hide in it. Like right. I use Office Vibe personally. And there's like 10 just obvious areas that make up the overall employee experience. And it's like relationship with manager, relationship with your peers, ambassadorship, wellness. And like, there's 120 questions just on lock, on rotate that the employee population is getting at random, either once a week or every other week and on a cycle. And they're just perfect questions. They don't pull any punches.
Right.
Have you ever been discriminated against? Do you love working with your manager?
Is it anonymous? Because okay, thank God. Yeah. Like, yeah, I did want to, I only asked that question. I wouldn't have gone into it if you said not, but it's just such a common misconception that it shouldn't be anonymous. And I see so many people not understanding that. In what universe would you, Nate the person, or you, Maddie the person, answer honestly about your work situation? You can get fired. Like the amount of times you get this URL that's like, 190 characters. You're like, I'm not going to click. Like, you're tracking this. I know. You get the email that says like, please don't forward this to your team, this anonymous survey. You're like, why? Because like it's tracked per person. I love that. So
you have to have an anonymous channel. I mean, I worked inside of an organization for a long time where they kept being like, we've got open doors. Your leaders are available to talk to you. And like, I knew something was wrong with that, but I couldn't put my finger on it. As soon as we put Office Vibe in, and like, I mean, these employees were like, they did not talk to the leadership. Of course, they talked to each other. There's a ton of water cooler conversation, but as soon as we made a true anonymous channel for them, it was like the floodgates opened and it became so clear, these obvious problems that were clear to the frontline employees that were not clear to the leadership.
Right.
So, I mean, going back to Maddie's question, a lot of times the leadership kind of goes through almost like a little bit of an awakening cycle of, oh my gosh, I can't believe this clarity. No way, that's not true. But now I cannot unsee this. This is true. And then a reconciliation that happens. So the only group that I've ever had pull the plug on this, see, guess what group? I mean, who in the organization might feel threatened by this?
I mean, I don't know. I would say like the higher the title is, or the
Gotta
longer
be
they work at the
sales.
company.
HR.
HR. Woo!
HR.
I've
Go
had
on.
HR come in and shut this program down.
No way.
Fascinating.
Yep.
And go ahead. No
I
commentary
don't know
from
what
you.
else
Go
to
ahead.
say about it. I mean, it was wild.
Yeah.
It was
Well,
wild.
it's interesting to me for QStack. I know you you met Sean, who used to work with us, who told you a little bit about QStack. What's interesting about QStack and other tools, like we have friends at MoveWorks and some other like enterprise software that started off for IT. HR is always a fast follow for QStack too, because it's solving, and it sounds like what you're solving is as well. It's a non-technical problem. It's a people
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
You know, it's a human problem. You know, when you're talking about experience, it's such a human thing. It really is about empathy, emotional intelligence, and really just the empathy part is huge. And that's why you'll see, I'm sure you see this too, but there's this big move to really see enterprise services all together as one thing with IT and HR and everything. Because really, at the end of the day, you're great. Some people are making a product and selling a product, but other people in the company, you really are there to empower the rest of the employees. You know, it's the service industry, and HR and recruiting to me are right up there with IT as far as not always seeming to have it exactly right when it comes to common sense and really empowering employees.
It can be tough, you know. I mean, I feel like you can tell the true caliber of an organization very quickly by the mentality of their HR department.
Totally.
Are they there? And they need to be there for this purpose. I'm not saying they shouldn't be, but are they there to protect the business and to quell any potential damage? Or are they there to actually serve and help and foster and grow the people that serve this organization? And there's going to be, those things aren't mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
But you're going to have to put emphasis almost more on one than the other in some ways. And the way that balance is found, the maturity of the organization in this area is going to speak volumes about them.
How do you think the org structure affects that dynamic? So for instance, like if HR reports into legal versus, you know, whatever, you know, we still haven't nailed like the perfect org structure for all these internal services. Do you think the org structure matters? Do you think it's like top down? Like, what do you think makes the difference, if anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to have a very good CRHO.
Right.
I mean, inside of Officium Labs, in which we have 4 or 5 executive level positions in total, we already have a CHRO.
That was an early hire, even for you guys. Yeah.
And it's Scott McCabe, and he's incredible. He's incredible in this area. He cares about people so much, and he wants to do the right thing, but he also loves the business and is going to do the right thing for the business. He's going to find the ways to do the right thing for both. And that's what a great CHRO does. If you have an HR organization that's reporting into legal and compliance, that's probably going to bias their mentality and their priorities. Probably.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It's sort of like how the birth of customer success came to be, right? You could sell customers to come and buy your product, use your product, but if you aren't supporting them and you know their partner and there to make their lives easier, they're going to be looking for other solutions. And the same thing goes for an employee, right? Like you sold me on joining the company, but if you're not supporting me, helping me grow, helping me learn, you know, the experience isn't there, I'm going to go look for a better experience. I think that's just, you know, it's such a natural, you know, parallel between the two. And it's just really cool to hear sort of what you guys are doing to help sort of evangelize it.
Yeah, well said, Maddie. I mean, I feel like I've had so many friends that have sought out a customer success role and have been so frustrated because all it is an entry-level account management role.
Right.
Yep.
And they rebranded it, they renamed it, and it's not that. It should not be that. In fact, it's incredibly detrimental when we start just renaming things that aren't the actual thing.
Amen, brother. Amen.
It ruins it for everybody else that's trying to actually do the true work of customer success or CX.
Yeah.
Because CX, we suffer from this where they just started calling customer service professionals CX professionals.
Right. The word experience, Roy and I, you'll hear it when it comes out or check it out. Roy Atkinson, who you mentioned, he was the first two guests
Yes.
on this podcast. So
that's awesome.
You're in good company. He was the lead off, but we went off because we're both writers. Him arguably much better than me, but we didn't argue. We just went off on, especially the word experience. So we don't have to revisit that here so much, but how much that word is co-opted and just slapped, like a bumper sticker over whatever the tool used to be called. And it's really painful because experience is such a powerful word if used. And I'm one of those weirdos that like, I will be in a meeting. I don't care how high level it is. I will pull up, I will Google definition experience, present it in front of execs and be like, let's be clear what we're talking about here. I don't know. It kills me that we will hire people for like customer success and then, we'll keep them from doing what would inevitably, by all metrics and studies, increase customer loyalty and increase the bottom line.
Amen. Wow. There's a lot to that statement, Ben. I love it.
Yeah. But I mean, so I won't bore you with that. I want to talk about you because there's things I really want to get done on this first question, on this first pod, and you're going to be back whether you like it or not.
Okay.
Hopefully. I think about all the time, are you born with it as far as getting customer experience? So you mentioned that I kind of implied that you did a huge transformation work at UL. You were like, no, I didn't. I had this awesome this awesome team around me, and everyone kind of got it and everyone worked together. My experience is that that's not a natural thing that everyone understands, to the point where you do have to do a lot of training and mental kind of gymnastics to really help people understand that. You understood experience and were probably almost too passionate, it sounds like, at the beginning. Where do you think that came from? I mean, did you work in the service industry? Where did your passion for customer experience come from?
This is such a fascinating line of inquiry. I mean, I've definitely been, I guess a tender heart pretty much my whole life.
Right.
I've kind of been labeled as that. I've had the thing come up in every performance review I've almost ever had of, you just really wear your heart on your sleeve.
Right.
Which is not meant to be a compliment.
Oh, it's not? I thought that I actually would. Oh, okay.
No,
you can tell. I think that's why I like you, because I think I'm learning what you say right now. I'm learning what's going to be like on my next performance review. No one's had the balls to tell me yet, but go ahead.
It's gotten me in a lot of trouble because I cannot not express an emotion that I have.
Right.
And so and that was the problem, that I was describing before. If I'm upset or angry about something, it's just all over me. I reek of it. And sometimes I just need to be able to suppress some of that. And I do feel like I've kind of matured in that area in a good way. We all should be able to bring our whole selves to work and to express the things that really matter to us. But there are times where I knew I was having an irrational response to something. And I wanted to be able to put that in a bit of a box so that I didn't have to bring others down with me as I worked through that. There are moments where that's good and healthy, and that shows emotional intelligence.
Right.
So I feel like I've developed that to some degree. But I mean, as far as what drew me into this work, I hated doing the postage meter sales, but I love.
Sometimes a shitty job will be all the inspiration you need.
It was the worst you could imagine. It's worse than whatever is in your head. And but there's a few people around Jacksonville, Florida that had these little postage meters, and I could go in and be like, oh, let me service this machine for you and make sure that it's operating to its fullest potential, and growing that relationship. And I loved that. And so then, when I was past that role is maybe customer service is something that I could look at. And as soon as I got plugged into a true customer service role, I loved it. I just excelled at it right away, because I was like, I'm helping somebody to solve their problem. I'm getting them on with their day and past this thing that was preventing them from being able to be successful in their own definition of success. I am guiding them. And I love being a guide.
Right.
There are moments where I like to have the spotlight on me and to be the hero of the story, little H sometimes. But what I truly love is being able to guide others to whatever definition of success that they have. And there are a lot of people out there that have that inside of them. And I think those are the people that are going to excel in this area of customer experience the most. We need people of all types and all mentalities to do this work. And nobody can do CX by themselves. It's impossible because you have to have so many different analytical capabilities, so many different like inspirational capabilities, so many different operational and like process capabilities. I mean, you're bringing all these elements together to make meaningful change, sustainable change happen. Nobody can do this work by themselves, but you do have to be able to remove you from the equation and not be selfish in your thinking to be effective in the work. And I feel like that is the line that separates those who can do this work really well and those that get frustrated and burned out from it. It's that ability to be selfless in your motivation around the work, to serve others, to serve the company intrinsically, altruistically, more of your Simon Sinek type of, maybe even a bit of a utopian type of thinker. Those are the individuals that are going to be drawn to this work and excel at it, in my opinion.
That's amen. That is really cool to hear. And I agree with everything you just said. So just as you like reflect back on your last couple of years, and there's someone out there who's feeling stuck in their role and they want to make all these changes and they just feel like they can't, what would you go back and tell yourself? You know, hey, Nate, like take a deep breath, you know, switching jobs isn't an option right now. Like, what can I do to make that change?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, just be so grateful for the amazing things that are happening in your life right now. There's so much good things going on that you have probably overlooked because of the bad. In most people's lives, at least in the context of people listening to this podcast, your life is incredible. Statistically speaking, in all likelihood, you have an amazing life. Think about right now, like what are some of those things that maybe you overlook on an everyday basis that are amazing, amazing things. And probably 90 to 95% of your life is incredible. But, and this happens to me all the time, that 5 to 10% just cannibalizes so many things that are great. And you just feel that 5 to 10% way more than you should. So like it's an exercise in gratitude of thinking about, wow, you know, I do need to work on that 5 to 10%. You know, there's a couple things I need to fix. There's a couple things about me that could be a little bit better that I need to change. But overall, I am a good person. I have a good thing going on around me. I have a job. You know, I have this roof over my head. I've got a dog or a cat. I've got a family, whatever it is for you. You got these things that you love that are good things. Focus on those things more and focus on those other things a little less. That would be number one. Number two, there are just so many great paths that are out there. You can make a new path inside of your current organization. You can change the context. And I did it several times. One of those times for me inside of UL was when I decided to create an organic CX program and grow up a grassroots movement that changed the context for me, where I was able to move from a customer service mentality to a CX mentality. I didn't get anybody's permission to do that. That was something that I was able to do and bring others with me on that little mini awakening that we got to experience together. There's something like that today that you could do that you don't have to get anybody's permission to do. Beyond that, there are other paths extenuating beyond your existing company, your existing context that you can go out and find that will guide you towards the legacy that you want to build. And that's what I would say to you today is, what is it that you want to look back and say that you were able to do, or something that you accomplished inside of your community or for others? What is that legacy that you do want to build when you're 60 years old, thinking back over your career? What is it that you would love to have built for you and for others? And take meaningful steps towards that. If you don't have a clear picture of what it is that you're building, you've got no Lego pieces yet. There's nothing for you to do with your hands. You're just going to feel lost and aimless. So you've got to have a depiction of that thing that you're trying to build before you can start to take some steps there. And I know that's in like every book in the world, but like it is real.
No, man, it resonates so well. I think, you know, so much so that even though Maddie and I are both Jewish, I think we just felt like we were in church because that was, we were saying amen. I mean, it really is something that's not obvious, and it sounds when you say it like it's textbook, but in practice, it's not really done. And I think to your point, you can do it regardless of your title. Do you have any like practical tips? I know Maddie and we had an offsite recently, and we would walk our dogs or my dog to the coffee shop, and on every day for our little one-on-one, we would start with, what are 3 things that you're thankful for?
I love
We would
that.
actually do like a little gratitude thing, usually because I forgot to do it in the morning. I basically will go insane if I don't start the day reminding myself of 3 things that are awesome. I lose it. Do you have any practical tips for people who don't use the word gratitude much, and you gave some great tips already, like you can be the change here, but
Yeah.
or I guess my question is, do you do any kind of like practice or meditation or mindfulness thing, or are you just a glass half full guy through and through?
No, I definitely struggle with like seasonal depression and like these
Right.
ebbs and flows where like there's some days I wake up and I could not be stopped, like period. And the next day I might wake up and I've got nothing.
Right.
And I do have to kick myself in the pants a little bit. But the thing that has helped to even me out a little bit is some Steve Gutzler wisdom. Steve Gutzler is a well-known executive coach. He wrote Lead with No Fear. I've got back there. Great resource, great person. And he educated me around this idea of fountain inputs. You become, your mentality is built so much from what you allow into you, from a media perspective, from a
Yes.
book perspective, video games, shows that you watch, the people that you allow in your life. These are inputs into you. And so much of your mentality is going to be built on those inputs. If you're consuming negative news and negative media, like really maybe destructive TV shows, maybe you don't even really notice it.
Right.
Like you're just filling yourself up with a lot of like compromised information and destructive stuff that is going to come out of you in a way. Like your energy will be altered because of that. Your own mentality will be adjusted because of that. So like I love to kick off my day with some really good, encouraging consumption of a book or something for that. It could even be 10, 15 minutes,
Right.
something that's going to encourage me and excite me, and starting my day that way. It's amazing how much difference something that simple can make.
Oh yeah. Just waking up. I mean, we haven't really talked a lot. So my background, I was a psychotherapist before I got into IT.
Wow.
Also like a janitor and a musician and a bunch
Holy
of other
cow.
things in between. Psychotherapist is the only like official thing that you could call a career-ish. But I was always fascinated by happiness. And like the reason anyone goes into psychology is to figure out themselves because they feel crazy.
Sure.
So just, I don't know, man. I think in my old age, I'm just so much more aware of how my self-care and mental health affects work. I would say more than anything else. Like the difference between a great week and a bad week for me is all about my attitude. 100%.
Amazing. It's so true.
Yeah, it's bonkers. But you've said so much. I really am going to preemptively ask you. You don't have to answer now, but yes. You know what? I will make you answer now. Will you be on the pod again in a few months to continue this conversation?
I will, Maddie. I'm back. I'll do it.
Okay. So,
awesome.
So, and yeah, because Maddie has some really great questions too. Obviously, I talk too much as per usual. So what if we're interested in learning more about you, if I'm one of the people that I don't know who you are, this is my first time, I'm like, wow, this Nate guy is amazing. How do I learn about you? How do I find Officium? What's the plug? How do I learn more about you? And if you are hosting I don't know if you're available, but I will just tell you, I've heard him speak. If you're hosting any kind of event, Nate, as is evidenced by this talk, will just blow doors in your audience. But tell me, how do we get in contact with you?
Yeah, I would love for you to pop over to officiumlabs.io. We got some great stuff going on there, including our CX maturity model. If you're just looking for a starting point, that's the starting point for you. And you can contact me through that page as well. But then too, on Twitter at customer is first. And then I'm very active on LinkedIn. So would love a LinkedIn connection as well. Just Nate Brown. I think I finally started popping up when somebody types in Nate Brown.
Nice. Well, you were
easy to find.
Yes, you're very easy to Google. And I mean this with 100% sincerity. you're great, dude. I love
Oh,
talking to
thanks.
you. I mean, sometimes, I think we're soldiers in the same war, albeit all in different lanes. Like I've always done IT, Maddie's always done customer success. You're in the customer experience mode, but it really, I just feel a kinship with all three of you, or both of you, and it's just a real pleasure. So, Maddie and Nate, thank you guys so much for joining us here at IT After Hours. I hope to do this again soon. And until next time, Nate, thanks for being on the pod.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Maddie. Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
Nate.